Welcome back, listeners. I'm Robin Black, and this is It's All About Healing podcast. The meaning behind double-mindedness. I wanted to kind of speak on this a little bit because it was actually my own personal battle, and it still is a personal battle of mine because as hard as it is for us to admit our faults, right, and our shortcomings, it's it's about my relationship with God and why and how God is so good to me. And it's it's very hard admitting that I struggle with certain areas, and but I believe that it makes me human, right? And double-mindedness, it speaks about how, we're born into this world of sin. So the sin, it's almost as though we normalize it, right? I know, whenever a lot of people may speak about God or they're in the Bible and they're doing this, there a lot of people are going to be, oh, I don't really want to hear that, right? And even hearing my podcast, I'm sure a lot of people come across my podcast and they're just like, she talks about God all the time, right? It's something that isn't being normalized enough. And I also feel that even though we all have a purpose, and I believe that all of our purposes are to help others and bring others, back to Holy Spirit, remembering that Holy Spirit lives in us, and that's what it's about, right? It's about our eternal souls. We aren't here to fix anyone, right? We're here to share our stories, to share our testimonies, and to help others, realize that having that relationship with God is what's going to deliver you from all this madness, all this turmoil. And that's what the enemy doesn't want. So it's that constant battle, right? The enemy's never going to stop chasing us. It's never going to stop. But this piece is about the battle that I face personally, because I feel that God is definitely growing me in wisdom, right? That's why certain lessons come along where when I'm fighting what I'm craving, right? Because when we often experience things that we're lacking, that's what we tend to chase after, whether it's a physical chase or whether it's a mental chase. It's something that just stays on your mind, right? But when we do that, it's as though, for example, if I love sweets, right? I'm a big sweet eater. So if I'm craving a Reese cup blizzard and I go to Dairy Queen and they say, hey, we're out of Reese cup, but we can give you Snickers or Twix or whatever, right? And I take that, right? Okay, I'll still get, a sweet, but technically it's not what I was craving. I was really, really, really looking forward to this Reese cup. So having something else isn't going to satisfy me, right? I'm not going to fully be satisfied until I get what I was actually wanting. And I know me personally, sometimes relationship wise, I tend to look for that placeholder, right? I tend to, because we're human, right? It's like, okay, well, I do want, whether it be someone to be there, someone to go hang out with, or you look for that companionship, right? Because we often sometimes can fall to loneliness, to feeling lonely and wanting someone to be there. At the same time, don't get me wrong, I love being with myself. I have no problem with that. But just that human nature of wanting that, it tends to fall to trying to fill a void, right? Trying to feel like, okay, well, I don't know how much longer this may last, so let me just go ahead and go hang out with this person and go on a couple of dates and just hang out. And it's like, but when we do that, we're moving further and further away from what's actually a part of our destiny when we do that. And I do those things because I want to, right? It's like we're the cause of our own suffering, right? And we prolong some of that suffering because we step out of the will of God. We say, well, God, this is taking too long. I'd rather do it this way. And that's why in this piece I speak about the only way to stay in your will, God, is to stay in your word. That's how powerful it is. And that's how you have to stay in that. Otherwise, you will drift. You will drift further and further and further away from what God has for us, what he needs us to do, and that blessing that we've been asking for, those desires that our heart craves are the desires from God himself. But the only way that we can make it to those desires is by staying in his will and by staying in his word. And that's what this piece was about, was my battle and how God has never left me. Not one time has he left me. And I feel that my spirituality is maturing, right? It's growing. I am growing in wisdom because now I'm starting to be able to spot the red flags. I'm starting to be able to spot when I'm the one that's, because, right, the enemy can never take anything away from us, right? It has to be given. And I know a lot of people will try to say that, oh, the devil's going to take this away from you. You're no longer this. You're no longer that. That's all crap, right? And God gave us free will. The devil can't take anything away from us, right? Anything that God gives us, the devil cannot take away from us unless we give it to him, right? We have to be that willing party. We have to be the ones to heed to evil in order for evil to take away. And it's it's God allowing me to see that a lot of my problems or a lot of my turmoil have been from my own doing, right? From my own willingness, right? Because whenever an opportunity presents itself, it's God who gives us a chance, right? And that chance is, which one are you going to take? And it's being able to hold myself accountable, but also being able to realize that even when I mess up, that God is still there waiting. He's still going to help me through because he's not here to forsake us, right? He knows that we're imperfect. He gave us the blessing of forgiveness. He gave us mercy. He gave us grace. And that's the one thing that the devil will never, ever be able to receive. That's why the devil wants to kill, steal, and destroy. That's why he does not want us to have this relationship with God. But that's why it was divinely guided for me to create this piece, because I kept trying to do it over and over and over and over again. And it's about finding the right music and finding everything that God puts together. I'm divinely guided to this music, and putting this spoken word together and putting these words together. It's God who gives me the words to say. It's God who chooses what music that I put with it. Like, this is all him, and that's how beautiful it is, and why this piece means so much to me, because it's very personal and it's very intimate, and it definitely I definitely share my relationship with God, even through the battles that I go through. And sometimes when us, just as humans, when we ignore those red flags, understand that, is God going to give us an instant replay so we know what it is that we ignored? Absolutely. That's what our intuition is, right? It's God speaking to us. It's that divine communication, but it's us who chooses to ignore it. However, he's still going to be right there holding us. And that's just what it's about. That's the beauty and the goodness of God, and God's glory is that he's always there, and he's never going to give up on us. He is our beginning and our end. He knows what we're going to do before we do it. He knows what we're going to think before we even think it. And that's something that I feel that I want to share, is that's what we have to hold on to, is that God knows us more than we know ourselves. He knows our end. He knows our beginning. He knows what we're destined for. And just because a lesson keeps presenting itself, that lesson is either something that we haven't applied, it's something that we haven't learned, or we keep going through the same lesson because there's someone or a lot of people in the future that they'll need that deliverance coming through us, right? They'll need to be delivered through us. God uses us as his vessel. And sometimes that's why we experience the things that we experience. Sometimes that's why we struggle with the things that we struggle with, because there's someone in the future that needs to hear that story, that needs to feel that. And that's what it's about. And that's why God and his love is just so great, and it's just so powerful, and it's so uplifting. And I hope that all my listeners can feel that and get that from that piece. Again, I'm your host, Robin Black, and this is It's All About Healing podcast. If you're navigating grief, toxic relationships, trauma, financial pressure, or the slow work of rebuilding after setback piled upon setback, this channel is for you. Our community now spans 118 countries, proof that real stories travel and that healing accelerates when we carry one another. Share your story, lend your voice, and let grace turn pain into purpose. Book your podcast in the link below and share your story. Be sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. Wherever you are in the world, good morning, good evening, and good night. Stay blessed.